Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi Achind. This special story season, and that's something I had promised all the viewers that Dev Talks will get stories of Indian Armed Forces in operations. The first one I want to talk about is the Operation Cactus with Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, who's here with me, who was a part of that operation. Sir, thank you so much for joining me and telling us the human part of your story of Operation Cactus.
Thank you, Adi, once again. Honored, privileged to be on your channel, especially a Soldier Speaks, a new series that you start, wish you the very best. I think it's a very interesting concept, and we'll keep it plain and simple and soldierly.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have no questions, as a matter of fact. I want you to tell me right from the beginning, where were you when you found out that you were supposed to go for this operation? Who was there with you? What were you doing? Were you on chutti for, for all, the 90% of the time people are on chutti? So, how did it start?
Yeah, okay. It was 3rd of November 1988, and I was the brigade major of 50 Para Brigade, which is an independent Para Brigade in Army Headquarters Reserve, the paratroopers. And that day we had the annual administrative inspection of the brigade, a book inspection for the first time. Otherwise, brigade could never used to have it earlier. So I was not in a very good mood. People coming to inspect you and things like that. So I was in the office at a normal time around 8:30 or so, around 9ish. I got a call from the Military Operations Directorate, later on the old directorate though, and then Brigadier VP Malik, the next, the chief, General VP Malik. He was then a brigadier in 1988 in the Military Operations Directorate. So he told me, gave me certain instructions that be prepared to move to island territory, things like that, and normal 4 5 points that sort of warning order. I said, okay, we keep that time. The island nation was Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka operation was on 1988, 1987 July. We had gone to Sri
Hmm.
Lanka. Sri Lanka, the common thing, and we, as a para brigade with the reserves, we keep going to Sri Lanka and coming back and things like that. It was normal. And then actually I said, fine, I just mobilized my staff and all. I said, let's see what happens next. Around 10 o'clock, I got a call. It's a very interesting one. And I'm talking about 1988, when the telephones were telephones, you to, the trunk call used to come, things like that. And then on the call says, this is the Vice Chief of the Army Staff speaking. I said, the staff also to the Vice Chief don't speak to brigade majors. So I thought staff, I said, yeah, sir, bolo kya chahiye? Matlab, staff officer must be wanting something from Agra. What do you get? You want a beta, some visitor coming to visit Taj Mahal, things like that. Then the Vice Chief of the Army Staff speaking. I said, yes, sir, bolo kya chahiye? Then there's a young Rodriguez, the Vice Chief of the Army Staff. I literally stood up on my chair, literally. Because, you don't expect sitting in a brigade office early in the morning to expect the Vice Chief to talk to you. The commander was not in the chair. He had gone visiting a unit, and the Vice Chief wanted to speak to me. And that is the time around little after 10 he passed the orders for Maldives operation, right? And the task given was very simple: uh, launch by 12:30 hours, M plane. Okay, launch by 12:30 hours, and go and rescue the president of Maldives. And in Maldives, there may be there's been a coup, and the coup leader and the mercenaries would have the enemy would have maybe missiles, maybe AD weapons, anti-tank weapons, small arms, HMGs, GPMGs, things like that. No, that was quite an information. And he said, "What can you do? What can you?" I said, "Sir, we'll do our best, but 12:30 is not possible." He said, what do you not possible? I said, "Sir, तो नहीं हो सकता तो नहीं हो सकता मतलब after all there is a moment time you have to every peace station someone got to mapping classes someone training somewhere one unit is out other unit is doing some duty somewhere so it is a peace time total cold start absolutely cold start as they call it so he said but can you do it and I said if anyone can do we can do it we will do it so that was a start point, and I immediately want six para, which is of course my unit, Brigadier Joshi, Lieutenant Joshi. He was a CO, and I said, "Sir, mobilize immediately. We go to Maldives. Where is Maldives?" So there's no Google. Okay, there's no internet. We, we, so I sent my G3. I said, "Go library se Atlas leke aao," and the library was closed. So we broke open the lock. We got an Atlas out. And Maldives, I knew it's somewhere in the Indian Ocean. That much I knew. It's part of the SARC. I knew. But where exactly? So we found some specks somewhere called Maldives in the Indian Ocean. Anyway, we started moving. And six para was mobilized, three para was mobilized, seven para was out on exercise. We started moving the artillery, the engineers, the signalers, and medical. So everyone stood up, and very interesting. By about 2 o'clock, and when the commander came back after about half an hour, so he said, "What have you done?" I said, "6 para mobilize kar diya." Kehta, "Your unit." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Good, well done." So that was it. And then we also, when 6 started mobilizing, there had two companies giving COD guard duty. COD Agra is, that time there had been a attack on us, terrorist attack on a Central Ordnance Depot, and Central Ordnance Depot was guarded by infantry companies. So we had two companies, 6 guarding the Central Ordnance Depot. And so told those two companies to get back, and I got a call from the deputy commander of the COD saying they can't go and close the gates. I said they got orders to fire. If you close the gates, they'll fire and get out. We have to launch this operation. And mech infantry moving, everyone on my head, the military operations director calling up, Delhi calling up, the command headquarters calling up, the corps headquarters calling up. You get total chaos, and the units calling up. So it was total chaos. But the fact remains, we moved. We emplaned by about 4:30 or so. We took out 4:48. We landed, and that's another story which I'll tell you later. But the fact is that within 16 hours of the first indication of impending operation, we had successfully executed our mission in rescuing the president of Maldives, who was in a safe house within 16 hours, nearly 3,000 kilometers from base from a cold start. That is a fact, right? And that is how Maldives is studied by military experts and strategists as one of the best 10, among one of the best 10 military operations ever executed. Executed, not planned. It was not planned. It
That's
was
the
not planned.
bottom line, I think. Yeah.
So it was execution.
So what happened, sir? You guys took off, and how many of you actually went in, sir?
Okay, what happened was at around 2 to 30, we had Breda Malik, then Breda Malik, General Malik, and hats off to him. He's a great man. And the then High Commissioner Ashok Banerjee, Arun Banerjee, sorry, not mistake Banerjee, coming to Delhi and the G1, and they brought certain amount of maps and to brief us, and those maps happened to be of Gan airfield, which is 400 kilometers away.
Ooh.
Okay. Now, we did not know that Malé, the capital of Maldives, and Halule are different islands. Now, Halule is the airport. The airfield is Halule. And the capital is Mali. And we were told to, jump and capture the airfield and rescue the president, secure and rescue the president. Now, Malé is a little more than 2 square kilometers with a population of 55,000. We were told to jump on a football ground, and we were told to jump. And it's night time, by the way. And sort of a beach onto this thing, and that beach happened to be marked in green. When the army reads green on a map, it is fields. When the navy reads green on the map, it is supposed to be reefs. So we would have jumped into the ocean, right? And that time Brigadier Balsara, the commander, fantastic, fantastic. Decision making has to learn from it. Role model. He was my role model. He is role model so many of us, right? Fantastic soldier, fantastic leader, fantastic trainer. He had trained the brigade so very well, and that is what pulled us through. And he said, "We are not jumping like this. What we're going to do is this, this, this." And the General Malik said, "You got to take care of the vice chief." He said, "You get me the phone to the vice chief. This is Agra, 44 squadron, the IL squadron, their ops room, briefing room. And get on and start briefing the people." So we started briefing the people. And to cut a long story short, we were ready with the weapons, with the ammunition drawn. The two aircraft, two IL-76. In the first IL-76 was the brigade quarter of Brigadier Balsara. I was there with him, and a G3. And we had 6 para with Brigadier Joshi, then Kal Joshi, and 2 companies, right? And one MMG Jeep and one RCL Jeep. And the second aircraft was the alternate brigade quarters under Colonel K.K. Singh, the RT commander, and company of 3 para, the engineers, the medical. So we had a composite lot. And the first aircraft was configured for jumps, and we also had the Air Force PTS. And the second aircraft was not configured for jumps because you have to configure the aircraft for jumps, right? And we had just about 60 packed parachutes. These packed parachutes are IL-76 packed parachutes. and they don't have the paniki cargo. Parachutes. Normal parachutes have the paniki cargo. You jump into the water, you can take off the parachute, jump into the water. But it doesn't happen with the IL-70s parachute, D5 parachutes. Okay, they're different. The jumping height is also more, so drift is more. There's a lot of technical things involved. But then everyone just wanted to go for it. कैसे भी ये आज तो जाना ही जाना हमने. And we took off. And now, how do you tell people that you have to rescue the president? Who knows the president? So there was one photograph we tried to show the people. This is the president's photograph. You can imagine, so fully loaded men with all the combat equipment in an IL-76, which is cruising. You try to tell them who is the president. They said, "ठीक है, देख लेंगे बाद में जाके." Okay, so it was a very swift operation, a surgical operation actually. The word surgical was used to bring up at that point of time. Still recollect that. And just short, and I was giving the code word. Code word, we were giving the code. Code word was Hadia, and Group Captain Demur was flying the aircraft. A fantastic flyer. He was flying the first aircraft, the lead aircraft, with the Air Marshal Goel, and just short of reaching Male. I think over Trivandrum, sometime the air traffic control was being passed on from one to one, and the air traffic control want to know where you're going, and we won't tell them where we're going. We can't tell them where we're going. Secrecy. Okay, look at the ATC aircraft flying, not going, and then there was I think, civil aircraft. So they wanted to also check, and they overheard some conversation. So some leak took place somewhere, and BBC started announcing the Indian troops are landing in have landed in Mali. And at the same time, just short of it, I got the signal Hadia on the radio, and the lights coming on and off at Halule. And that was a signal that it is safe to land. But the signal can come under duress, it can come under threat. Anything could have happened before we took off 5 hours. It was flying time of 4.5, 5 hours. This is around 10 o'clock now. And anything could have happened in between. Things change. And I went out to Brigadier Balsar. It was a decision time. You know what he says? We land. And Brooklyn Dover was told, we land. And Brooklyn Dover, the decision is both the Airborne Force Commander and the Air Task Force Commander. Had spoken. He said, okay, so we land. Well, it's very, very, brave decision. But then our regiment says, who dares wins. And fortune favors the brave. That's how we are trained. Who dares wins. We never think of the consequences. We go ahead and do it. Let's see what happens thereafter. So it is the belief, self-belief, it is the training, it is the ethos that comes into being. And he landed the aircraft. And when we're landing the aircraft, we Indians don't know what a country we are. Both sides, the waves are coming out of the runway, the water coming out of the runway. It is 46 meters wide, right?
Wow.
And we wanted to jump on it. And anything would happen when we landed. And anyone driving a jeep onto the runway and look at an aircraft like IL-76, 90 tons of aircraft, 90 tons of fuel, 140 tons of aircraft just going to a jeep, would have just blown off. Okay, but Broken before he controlled very well, and the lights were not there. It was dark, and he landed that aircraft, and we landed, and we stopped, and we got off. Of course, we were lucky. We got off from the front door, and the rear exit is the jets are so strong that if you go straight, the IL jets will take you on 40 meters down. We'll fly with that jet stream. Okay, so they won't come down. And then we landed there. We secured the airfield first. Very interesting. We secured the airfield, and we could hear the firing going on in Male, which is another island about a kilometer plus. We could hear the firing, but Halule airport was quiet, and there was one chap in the ATC, a lieutenant, and we contacted him. And then the president spoke to Brigadier Sara. He said, "Look, I'm running out of time. You come and rescue me straight away." So he said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm running out of time." And cut the phone down. In the meantime, there was this ship passing between Male and Halule. And we came to know that ship is taking some hostages along, 38 hostages later on. MV Progress Light was the name of the ship, a 5,000-ton ship. MV Progress Light is an Indian ship, merchant vessel. And we started firing on the ship. Everyone let off. And my live fire. Okay, and then that ship went away. And then Charlie Company under RGS Dhillon, Major RGS Dhillon, they went in for the assault, and three para under General Ghai led for Major Ghai, that is General Ghai, they went in for diversion with PD Punekar, three para, and there was a diversion put across straight on, and everyone thought the troops are coming this side, whereas the actual thing went from the southeastern side, and a hook sort of a thing, they
Hook.
landed
Mm.
here. And fortunately, RGS Dhillon came across, caught hold of a chap who was there, cyclist, and he asked him, the president is. He said, no, I don't know, but I know someone who may know. So he took him to someone who may know, who took him to someone else who may know, and that someone else knew where he was. And then he went and gave and he stood there, saluted him, said, with regards from the government of India, we come to rescue you. So the Maldivians, they never expected us to come so soon. And by the way, the president of Maldives, when he was on the second, third night, he had requested the US, Soviet Union, Pakistan, and Singapore for help, and India also thereafter. And we had reached there, they were not there. And we rescued the president, and we rescued the president, and I told the commander, sir, president has been rescued. He says, Vinod, make sure अब नहीं मरना चाहिए वो. हमने रेस्क्यू कर लिया है, अभी कुछ हो गया तो
Mm.
be
Mm.
very, very bad for us. And we were supposed to bring him back to India, and he said, I'm not going back to India. So we then sanitized the NSS headquarters because firing was going there. Then we sanitized the whole thing, took him there. From there, he spoke to the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. And then we were told, okay, give him the security and restore the duly elected government of Maldives. So our mission changed to that. So that was how we did it. And we went, for 4 days, 4 nights and 3 days. I was on the control, no sleep, no food, just chai and cigarette setting. And the people were very good. When we went there, the duty free shops are totally open. We have to take care of that also, that no one blames us for the Indian Army. No one blames us. And the banks were open, they were left open, everyone ran away from there. So it was a different sort of altogether. Maldivian people are very good people. They had never seen violence before that. And that is how we did it. We had nothing to eat actually. It came in much later. And by the morning of the 4th, by the afternoon of the 4th, we built in the complete brigade. And by 5th, we were de-inducting back.
In a single day, sir.
Yes, we had finished the task.
So, sir, the fighting was basically on Malay, or it was spread around to other islands as well, sir?
No, the fighting was all in Malay itself. What had happened was in Malay, there's the coup leader, there was a chap named Lutfi, an industrialist. He was the coup, and they were held by some mercenaries from the plot, Uma Maheswaram, right? So they had come with weapons, and they had, there's that time the NSS headquarters was there. NSS, the National Security Service of Maldives, that is Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, Coast Guard, all combined into one. So they were 15 strong. So they attacked them. They taken over the presidential palace. They taken over the radio station, the TV station. So they taken over all that, right? But there was fighting going on in the NSS headquarters and around Mali. There were injuries. There was people killed. But they had not come to Halule because they never expected us to land so early. Right? They never expected anyone to come to help so early. So we landed there, and we later on when we questioned them, and when next day on the 4th morning, the naval IL-38 came, and Lieutenant Commander Naik, we had the staff post together. He was there. It helps. So he said, "You know what happened?" I said, "This is what has happened." I said, "There's a ship which had escaped, and it was listing." He said, "We saw a ship listing somewhere a little away." So they went and they, reconnoitered over the ship. They kept it under watch, and INS Betwa was moved there. INS Godavari was moved, and then they rescued all the 38 hostages
Wow.
who were brought back to Mali on the 8th of December and handed over to the Maldivian government with the president. And because me and Brigadier Bulsara were flown on INS Godavari, and then INS Godavari steamed into Malay Harbour, and we handed over the hostages back to them. Among the hostages was a minister, tourism minister, and his wife and his mother-in-law. His mother-in-law, his wife was a Swedish lady, I think, and his mother was Swedish. So this I came to know later on. When Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was told that we have rescued the horses, including the mother-in-law, the minister, so Mr. Rajiv Gandhi told them, that he'll be very unhappy with you. Why do you rescue mother-in-law? So, that was early morning at whatever time it was. So that is how it was. And 2 o'clock we got the media come in. About 4 in the morning, media came in and media feedback. So it was a good operation. We just did it because we had to do it,
Hmm.
and no casualties whatsoever. Zero casualties. Zero.
That's my, yeah. What about active firing, sir? How much active firing did you guys get into, or was there a combat sort of a situation that you guys got into?
Yeah, when we landed, we had to secure the airfield one, and we could see the firing happening the other side on Male. But when
Hmm.
we went, we reached Male, the firing had died down because they ran away. We
They
fired on the
realized.
ship. We fired on the ship. So it is shock action, surprise. Uh, but it is not a question of how much you fired or how much was the action. It is the question of, achieving the mission, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone said you're lucky. Yes, Napoleon said, "I need lucky general. Who needs good generals? Everyone needs lucky generals, right?" We were lucky, but no one understands what goes behind that luck, what goes behind that fortune, decision making, training, self belief, the ethos, the will to do it, that sort of a thing. No one understands that. These are intangibles, and it is the intangible. We knew that anything in the world we could do. We were so well trained at that point of time. We could actually do it. We were so energetic. We were so grouped together. The bonding was so great in the brigade. It is always there. The maroon berets. We had a point to prove to the world, and that was the time on 4th of November. Every battalion of the regiment was abroad. Okay, right. 3 battalions in Maldives, 1 battalion in Bhutan, Tupera, and the other battalion in Sri Lanka. So it is fully employed everywhere. History.
It always happens like that, sir. Sir, but one thing I still want to ask you is that, mission accomplished is a big thing. First, हो गया, वापस हो गया, set up. Now, you said you also helped up in setting up, restoring the democratic government in this thing. Now, para troopers are, I mean, the training for setting up a government is not something that a soldier gets. So, how did you
No,
start
no, we
even?
didn't. No, we didn't set up a government. We restored the government in
Yeah,
the sense
restored
that
the setup. I mean, you don't.
we sanitized the area. We captured all the elements who were there. We chased them in the seas. No, there's not one. There's many of them. Many anecdotes like that. And one of the anecdotes was on the fourth morning. I got a call from the American coup, and he said, we are a battle group about 3 hours sailing time from Mali, and we want permission to land in Mali. No, I was a major. So I'm not trained in diplomacy. Or something. I didn't know what to do. I said, wait, I'll get back to you. He said, no, we are sailing. I said, wait, I'll get back to you. Right. And then I spoke to my commander, and he said, no, this too small a place to accommodate anyone. Tell them to keep away, and if we need, we will call them. So I told them that. Then I told the military operations director, this is what has happened. We're in constant touch with everyone, up, down, sideways. And when he says restoring the government, it is the confidence of people that matters. When they saw us, when they saw everything is quiet now, it is the confidence of people. And what the president of Maldives wanted was that tourism should start immediately. So on the 5th, we had the first flight coming back because Maldives depended on tourism. So the markets were open, the tourism started, the people were there inquisitive as what had happened. There were casualties, there's no doubt about it, there were casualties. And then those coup leaders and the coup system were brought back and they were put in a prison island in Gamadu, which is a prison island. Now they would escape from there, so we have to take care of them. So we didn't. We only restored the law and order in the province.
Mm,
We didn't.
mm.
We didn't interfere. And on the twelfth
No,
of
I mean,
12th of November, he was. He was already re-elected. 12th of November, he was sworn in again, afresh. And then thereafter, we de-inducted on the 17th of November.
so what was it? How did it feel when we came back, sir? What was the celebration like? There's
Oh,
always a.
no, there's no celebrations. There's no celebration whatsoever because six para stayed back with 2 companies. for
Sir.
1 year. And
Hmm.
we came back, and then there was a lot of work to be done because then we realized our weakness in not having a designated, equipped, and trained rapid deployment force. Right. So when we came back, our briefing started off after action report, and then in January beginning, we were officially designated as the rapid deployment force. Okay. So we had to work those out. If we had to, move on in a certain time frame, how do we do that? What are coordinations to be done, what has to be carried, what is not to be carried, how we train for it, how we equip for it, what is the readiness required. So we had to do a lot of work, training, and SOPs were written, SOPs were practiced. So there's no looking back. There's no looking back. So we caught off guard once, we can't get off guard a second time. First time you may be lucky, second time you may be lucky.
You won't be
Right?
lucky.
And first time and we demonstrate the world the capability and the capacity to move, to redeploy, and to execute an operation from a cold start in a with zero intelligence, literally zero intelligence.
And that too 3,000 kilometers away.
3,000 kilometers.
And Agra, of all the places.
Agra and Maldives. Absolutely. You're sitting in a peace location.
For all the viewers that don't know, फौज में आगरा जाने का मतलब आ गिरा
Agra.
खत्म जो वहां गिरता है वो
No,
बाहर नहीं निकलता
but
वहां से
we used to train very hard. Let me tell you. Agra is everyone think Agra is a cushy train, but we train very hard at Agra. It's the training that sees you through.
indeed
And
sir my dad was there
motivation.
for 12 years so
Oh
he
yeah, I
also
know.
has
I know. We're
lovely
colleagues.
stories.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was there for long years, and Agra Air Force. Oh, they responded. We had aircraft lined up, and they were waiting for troops to come. The Air Force can mobilize much faster than the Army. So the aircraft, wherever they were flying, they were called to Agra. So all over, they were anyone which was airborne was called to Agra. Anyone who was not airborne was sent to Agra. And we had aircrafts, and we could move the complete formation by next day morning. We were there. And everyone pitched in. And it is not the army or the para brigade. Equal or more credit to the Air Force and the Navy. They were equally off guard. But their reaction was, that's just the armed force is very good. So, बड़ा मजा आया अभी कहने की बात है after so many years. But at that point of time, what went through our minds, the apprehensions we had apprehensions definitely. I'm not so we don't. We had concerns. The apprehensions of failure. How can you fail the nation? How can you fail the flag, right? And had we lost it, it would have been shameful. Okay. And that is how Time magazine, in its cover, said "Superpower Rising." After that, Superpower Rising. So that was the start point.
So I think this is a very, very, very beautiful story, and this is right after the time then during Sri Lanka where a lot of things went wrong. Right around the same time, when India pulls off something unbelievable within the neighborhood of Sri Lanka itself. So that's something very, very interesting, and you know, it's a beautiful story. And thank you so much for telling me this. You wanted to say something, sir?
No, yes, we should look at it positively. Yes, Sri Lanka was on that time. It's very easy, and nowadays everyone knows Maldives is all about. But that time, hardly anyone knew Maldives. We never used to travel so much, and to go in blind is not easy. Now I shudder to think, Brother Basai, when I told him at the same time, later on, today said, Vinod, I faced a moment of truth. Had the decision gone wrong, the failure, the casualties, the fatalities, everyone would have been wiped off. And we would have been a laughing stock of the military world. No, it's very easy now for me to sit down here and talk to you with a lot of pride and a lot of passion. But now, as an old man, I look back and anything and everything would have gone wrong. But what did not go wrong, or what right was our jazba,
Hmm.
our will, our ethos. Like I said, who dares then? Yeah, you take chances. Paratrooping is all about high risk. So you took the risk, you won. But had we not, Fortunately, because we have known so many failed operations. Eagle Claw, the U.S. rescue operation in Tehran. Okay, even Osama bin Laden rescue operation, the helicopter went down. They had to
Yeah.
blow it up. So it is not so easy.
incidents, bad incidents, and these were a very, very highly trained and well practiced operation.
And these are planned to the last minute's detail with all intelligence available. And here we are blind, were literally blind, cold start. Well, when I went out there, I went to change my uniform before going there because I was in uniform to change my combat dress. And when they asked me where are you going, I said, look, this is the key to my briefcase. Period. If something happens, someone comes, just give me the key to the briefcase because that had I had the locker keys and all that. I was the custodian of the documents, secret documents, and things like that. As where you going? I said, forget it. And it must have taken less than a minute to change and run. That was all. So it's very easy to set after so many years. But what went through the families, what went through their minds, uh, that's soldiering. That's all soldier speaks. But given the task, we have to accomplish it. And if we can accomplish it, no cost, no cost. I think that is the actual test.
That indeed, sir. I mean, you just told a story which is quite hair raising. In the last part of it, going home for a minute to change your dress and handing over your wife the keys and saying, if anything happens, just give this to the office.
Next
No
time.
buy, no nothing. That's more important. Forget it. I mean, it's something that actually tells you the spirit with which the armed forces are set up, which the armed forces work, and which the armed forces actually provide for a pathway for the future leaders as well. Of course, it's not just this. It's these are stories that will actually stay on. Sir, I can only say thank you for sharing this. It is just to hear this entire thing. Although very, very, as you said, 16 hours. 16 hours is it takes probably that much time to set up an operation. But here you guys went and finished the damn thing in 16 hours, 4 days you were back, and that's something which is amazing. And of course, the laurels that this operation brought to the country. Uh, you're right. As a matter of fact, I've read so much about it in military history, not in Indian military history in terms of Indian writers, but of course Western writers who've written about the blind operation. It's one person had written about this. I forget his name. He had written the blindest of the blind in the operation that was conducted in the dark. So there was a beautiful article about this, and it's amazing that these stories exist abroad, but in India, very few people know about it. Sir, thank you so much for sharing
Thank
this
you,
story.
Hari. Thank you very much for starting Soldier Speaks. And I must tell you, I must thank Brigadier Balsara, Brigadier Joshi, RJS Dhillon, and Group Captain Devur, Captain Gopalchari, and all those group part of this operation. We owe to General Ghai. Each one of them has done his task exceedingly well. Each man, each leader, and that's what it is. And thank you for
Thank you,
this.
sir.
Thank you. Honored.
Sir, also, and I'm going to say this on air because of your vast experience, I'm sure there are loads many stories that you can tell us. So I'm looking forward to hearing more and more of your stories. Something that obviously you can share with us, not the stuff that you can't, but we are looking forward for an inspiration coming from people like yourself, and to hear these stories that we wouldn't have ever known until unless we hear them from you. So till next time for
Definitely. Thank
another
you.
storytelling day, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mahin. Jai Hind.